does truth look like to you? And what does it mean in your life?
Disability justice to me, as a disabled person, is a concept that's taken a while for me to understand and realize, but the disability rights movement, it only took us so far. And so disability justice really centers this idea that disability is a valued identity, but an intersectional identity. And so that's at the center of what disability justice work is trying to do. And it's trying to take us to that next place, that further step in the march towards greater equality, equity, and inclusion for all people.
Disability as an identity, I think, is a key piece to this conversation around social justice in general, because historically disability isn't seen as an identity. It is considered a deficit. It's considered something that needs to be fixed. It's considered a medical problem. And so if we continue to see disability in that way, we are not going to see it having a contributory role to social justice initiatives. And so I think that not just including the voice of disability, but and the perspective of disability, but ensuring it and learning from it is actually going to help the entire social justice movement move forward, because it is an identity that intersects all identities. Disability is going to touch all of us in our lifetime. And without seeing it as a strength and seeing it as a contribution, but also responding to that voice and that perspective in ways that influence social justice, I don't think we can move forward without it.
Talking about intersectionality, how is it that an immigrant, Black woman with visual impairment and physical impairment, be welcome into the space? That's the intersectionality, and giving me the wholeness to walk into your classroom with a broad smile on my face, knowing fully well you will embrace me. That's disability justice.
So disability justice takes on this ongoing fight in little ways and big ways, in systemic ways, overt ways, and covert ways every day. And it also involves ableism and realizing that that's discrimination, and calling it what it is has been really helpful for me understanding disability justice and all of the work we've done, but how much further we still have to go.
Or a child who has writing problems or dysgraphia, dyslexia, and then the teacher says, you know what, everyone bring your pen and paper and write. And knowing fully well that one or two kids in that class can write, but you insist that if you cannot write, you use the word lazy. How have you validated the identity of that child? You've rather taken away.
For students, ableism exists. It gives them language and tools, and it affirms some of their lived experiences that they've already had and maybe didn't know how to explain or describe. So it increases self-efficacy, confidence, their ability to learn, because now we've created a safe space. Students can't learn safe. And so when disability is seen as a problem to fix, the classroom is not safe.
Recognizing identities of disability in a classroom, I think we can learn from a lot of other diversity initiatives that are happening in the world right now, which is the importance of representation. Kids need to see themselves in the books they're reading. They need to see themselves in the questions they're answering. They need to see themselves in the problems they're solving. And so I think if we're thinking about how we can help identities from the disability community emerge, it has to be safe. And what's a great way to make that safe is for kids to see themselves in positive light. What a gift it is for a kid to see themselves in their community and in their classroom and in the books they're reading and the content, and being like, hey, that's like me, and being excited and proud about that. It's not something that needs to be hidden or needs to be something that you're ashamed of, but something that's really celebrated. And so I think as an educator then, it really shines a light on the importance of getting to know who your students are and building those relationships, because you can tell a lot from a student who you know may have a disability but isn't willing to share it. That's a really important cue to me to say, it's my job as an educator now to create that safe space so that students can stand up and say, hey, maybe that's like me, and something that they can be really proud of and celebrate. But that's very, very different than the disability conversations of the past, which often kids don't even know they have a disability. And so it's a really intentional act of knowing who's in your class and making sure that the kids are seeing themselves and each other in everything they do and everywhere they go.
All we want is we want to know that our kids are loved and that they are being challenged in the way that they could be challenged to the best of their ability, because we want success, but success is different for everybody, whether you have challenges or not. That's our main goal as a parent.
Disability justice is not just how you approach your students and see your students, but it's the content that you're teaching. It's the types of voices who have been included and are central to what you teach, how you teach.
As a support teacher, I would be supporting classroom teachers, and it was a grade 9 social studies class, and we were doing a unit around building criteria around leadership and heroism. And if we just look at the curricular content, the example was Napoleon. That represented nobody in the classroom. And so we kind of opened that up and said, well, the actual word Napoleon isn't in the curriculum. What if we open that up and look for leaders and heroes that are around these kids, right? And so, looking at the kids in front of us, including students with disabilities, and saying, let's find leaders and heroes that represent the kids in our space. And we can still talk about Napoleon, but it was creating space for all of those identities to exist, whether that was race, culture, language, and disability, to see them all, that all of these identities can be heroes, all of these identities can be leaders, because the power isn't even knowing about a specific leader, but what all of these leaders and heroes have in common, and that you can absolutely find those aspects in many, many people, not just the ones that we're historically used to, that often are not representative of the identities in our classroom, especially disability.
When we were celebrating neurodiversity and we had posters put up in the hallway at school, we had different presenters come into the building, and I noticed a lot of students around the posters and said, this is really cool, which really got me thinking these events that we call, that celebrate neurodiversity this week, it's got to be beyond that. So it's got to be a culture where these acknowledgements that we give to special days, be it a week or a month, that needs to be happening all the time and consistently. So I think making things visible in the school, making sure parents feel comfortable to approach and ask for supports when they need it. Also feeling comfortable enough to say what they feel maybe needs to happen in the school more, and being open to that, not being defensive and just listening. So I think we're all just working together, learning together, and creating a community where we can share and we can be open to celebrating diversity, whatever that looks like.
I think when I think about disability justice, I think about seeing disability as a worthwhile and important identity within the fabric of humanity. It deserves not only a seat at the table, but a voice at the table. And I think that there's so much intersectionality between disability and all identities. And so, having conversations around justice that doesn't include disability is not only detrimental, but we're actually missing a critical voice to be able to move this work forward.
How can disability justice principles be included into our daily teaching, daily lifestyle, daily administration in our school? It's for every single administrator, every single educator, every single parent, every single person in the world going through that learning process of knowing what is disability justice. How do we preach disability justice in our school spaces and in our environment? I have to be a voice, because you can't be an educator and choose who you're speaking up for and who you're taking away. So as an educator, your voice, your advocacy, your activism should be for everyone that comes into your classroom space.